Hello and welcome to another weekly live stream. Fellow Mythrunians, join me tonight with doing some map work. As I've been working on the caves, I've needed to go and explore around, and it'd be nice if I could hack in some map stuff so I could see them. Let's thank the patrons before we get started. You guys help keep the lights on, and it's really appreciated. Thanks so much. And let me get set up here a little bit more before I pop it open. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. Got my stats up, we're looking good. Alright, seems we lost one concurrent viewer already. Okay. Yep, now we're down to one. Alright. So, welcome everybody. If you're here, let me go ahead and catch you up on what I've been working on. Mostly I think since last time it's been caves. I know I finished up, what were we working on last week? Was it the bug fixes? And I already showed you that I fixed the physics bugs. Last week we worked on, who remembers? I can go check. Yeah, scripting stuff. So that would have been, oh yeah, moving all of the, I did in fact move all of the player setup into scripts. And it looks really clean too. I mean, it's going to be better. Excuse me while I sneeze. Where is it? Yeah, so we had like standard tools. So it ended up being really clean in the end, right? We create the build one, we create the sword, axe, blah blah blah. And you know, I make sure that if you have nothing held, that it goes ahead and holds the build one. So if we start out with nothing, we start out with the build one. What I've been working on lately is checking out the caves, and so I've got like some basically cave exploration to make sure that they look decent. I've had some fairly chaotic looking caves, and I'm trying to make sure that they don't happen too often. So let me see, mark. Yes, let's go to mark. Oh, I can see. Was it? What did I call it? Is it warp or teleport? Warp. Warp, but I think it's pound chaos 1. So that will take us over to some level. So what I just was making marks on any caves I found that looked like fairly chaotic. So these caves, you know, they have kind of these outcrops, and the one that I really don't like is this one that's got like all the trees growing out of it, even though it's like sticking straight out of the thing. We get some land that's like floating or almost floating. And my concern was if these things happen too often, if we get too much of this really chaotic terrain, then I need to adjust the cave algorithms to push more of this underground, because basically I think too much is coming to the surface. And true to form, like just over the hill here is another case where, oops, we got 4 people on, cool. Oops, wrong way. Let's see, warp, pound, chaos 2. So just over the hill we got another case. Oops. Yeah, nice. Where we've got like some terrain, but it's fairly chaotic here too, because it's got lots of chasms that are gorgeous or whatever. One that cuts right through here. And so I found these two right next to each other. And then I was just going a little bit more to try to find the next cave, and that's when I came across that place where we started out here, which I think is just over here. Yeah, I can already see the caves forming over here. I'm using the diagonal travel trick. You know, you go a little faster if you travel diagonally. So yeah, this is where we started out here. And these are more normal caves where they just kind of bump up into the surface and you can... so I'm going around exploring all these caves and... oh, look at that view. I love the views. Okay. And it occurred to me that it would be nice if I could, you know, plot them on the map. And there's other problems associated with that because only the server knows where the caves are and stuff like that. But in general, I've neglected the map for a long time. I want to be able to zoom. I want to have, you know, layers and features that I can turn on and off on the corner. So that's what we're going to work on tonight, is just starting that work. None of this, of course, is actually on my to-do list for this release, but zoom I think I can get done today for sure. Starting map layers, that may be a bridge too far. But I've got the 4-day weekend to mess with stuff, and so I don't want to waste too much time traveling around if I can just jump from one place to another and check things out. So, alright. Feel free to ask questions if you have any, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on making all that stuff happen. Alright, so I've got the map view state up. This is what creates that, you know, on the left we've got the TBD and on the right we've got the world name. This world's name that I've been playing with is Jenny, because the C is 8675309, which any 80s music aficionados will recognize as Jenny's phone number. So in the middle area is this map component. I think this is where we'll start. And I was looking at this briefly right before the live stream. And well, you know what I didn't do? I didn't create my my whiteboard. So let's go ahead and start the whiteboard so that when I want to randomly doodle, I can randomly doodle. So the map is come on, go faster. Alright, so the map is so a window like this, and then in the middle is the map, and on the side we've got the two panels. Here's where I thought I could put map info and layer toggles and stuff. You know, other stuff could go over here. Anyway, there's the parts on either side. What this is just a big quad with a texture on it, and there's a special material that renders that texture in that map-like way, but it's actually just the regular terrain texture that the far terrain uses. And you know, it sets the texture coordinates on these corners to make sure that you know, slightly less than it's showing the 16 by 16 tile texture, you know, so if you want to think of that as Mythruna kilometers, but just clipped off just on the edge, and then it kind of slides that around as the player moves, just so the player's always in the center. And so what we see here is we can see that, yeah, I'm basically setting the texture coordinates of that quad, you know, basically half a tile size or some portion of a tile size in. I don't remember, so set the texture coordinates to clip off the extra tile on the east-south border as well as half the tile all the way around. Yeah, so so I guess the texture itself might be wider than or it's wider than we needed or something. Anyway, what I believe is that if I just increase these, if I increase these and decrease the others for the different corners, that I can affect a zoom, and it'll be like a crappy zoom at first because it's using the lowest res terrain for the far terrain. But I believe, and I'm going to confirm this in a second, so what we're going to do is, let me think, how best do I want to do this? So we've got tile size plus a half tile, and a half tile. I mean, for those of you who don't know what texture coordinates do, like if you've got a quad like this, normally if you wanted a full image to show up, this is texture coordinate 0, 0, and this would be texture coordinate 1, comma 1, right? And so that if your image is 512 by 512 or whatever, it's going to stretch it across the full thing. But if you set this to 0.25, 0.25, it's going to cut off. It's going to move this point in a little bit on the image, by how much you do in. The same on this one. So that's what I'm talking about here. I'm setting those texture coordinates. And hey, Frammy, how's it going? So tile size. What did I set the tile coordinates? Okay, so a tile size is 64. So the image itself is 1024, and the tile size is, what is 1020? Oh, that's 16. Yeah, so 1024 by 64 is 16. So yeah, so this is a tile size is 1/16 of 24 in pixel space. Map pixel space, but then half the tiles, half of that. Yeah, so yes, I can see that. Hi, Frammy. Hi. Can you see this? There may be a delay between when I respond because you guys are seeing my video at like a 30-second delay or something, whatever YouTube sets up. So if you post something, it may take me a second to respond. Not because I didn't see it and respond, but because you're not hearing my response yet. Yeah, that's what it is. And so, yeah, so basically, so a tile size is one of those 16, 1/64 of this, 16, 1024 divided by 64 is 1/16. And then half of that again. So but here's, we're setting the lower left corner to be in the image by a tile size plus half. And then here, just a tile size or half tile. Anyway, the bottom line is I should be able to say something like zoom, and if I set it to, let's see, yeah, what is 64 divided by, well, so that's basically 64 divided by 1024 is basically 1/16, or 0.0625. So yeah, so I'm setting these directly. So if we want to think of it, let's just say we want to move it in by 2 tile sizes. First of all, before I do anything, let's take a screenshot. Actually, I have a screenshot. Well, not from our current location. So we'll take a quick screenshot so we can see the change. In fact, I'm going to move the player. There's you learn tricks after you've been developing a while. One common thing I could screw up with all this is I make the change and everything looks fine, but then the player marker is not actually where the player is. So if I know it's right now, and so if I go turn on the map, if I know the player marker's in the right place right now, yeah, see, it just shifted. And so if I move to one of these corners, these tile boundary corners, then when I change the zoom and we're seeing more detail, because I'm just going to hard code a zoom for a second just to make sure I understand the math, then we'll know that the player marker is still located in the correct place because it'll still be on that thing. So what I'm going to do is move over here. Somewhere down here. Where are we? Getting closer. Yeah, we're going a little bit faster than the train can keep up. I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're running the current client, there's that control key. If you hold the left control while you run, you go super run. Don't report bugs if you manage to res through the terrain and stuff, because it's a known issue. That is faster than any player will ever be able to travel normally. Okay, so let's at some point, the other thing we can look at is up here. There's this tile location. That's the current tile we're in. You know, with 1024. So if we do that until that changes, there it did. It just changed. Yeah. So there it was, minus 16,384. We're right on the thing. If I move forward just a little bit, it's 15,360. So, oh, you know what I could have done too is turned on this grid. Oops. And then we will know, basically right here is the corner. I'm going to put a little, oh. Yeah, something's behind. Yeah, my high, something got stuck. Because I can see we've got somebody who's locked up. It's interesting. I've never had a deadlock happen before. It's not good. Anyway, we can. It's stuff is still there on the server, even if we haven't viewed it on the client yet. Wait, we got some. Yeah, no, those not errors. Okay, so we're right on. This is our. We're right on that border. Now, if I mess with the zoom, hard-coded zoom, before I hook it up to any controls, I want to even see if the math is working. So, yeah, so it's. Oh, it did stop. Okay, so it's not been too hung up. So let's zoom. Let's zoom by 2 tiles. 2 tile size. Whoops. And so we will, to each of these things to the bottom, we will add the zoom. So anytime we see this half tile, we know we're. So this is like the lower left coordinate. This is the lower right coordinate. And so we're going to subtract zoom from the x part and add zoom to the y part. And this is the upper right coordinate. So we're going to subtract zoom from there and subtract zoom from there. And this is the upper left quadrant or coordinate. And so we'll subtract zoom from the top and add zoom to the left. Okay, now if I run again, oh, I never did take the screenshot. Oh well. Now again, this is low res terrain, so things are going to get chunky as we get too close, but I have higher res terrain I can use. Alrighty. Come on, zoom. Yeah, I'm hoping we didn't corrupt something. Oh. Something's doing something. Yeah. We messed something up somewhere. I think that in messing with some other stuff, I might have screwed up my binary files. That could have actually been what caused the other thing. So what we're going to have to do, I'll deal with that another time. Let's remove my tile DB and see if that gets us past the issue. I don't want to debug a separate thing while we're on this live stream. Got 8 people watching apparently, if the stats are to be believed. If you are a newcomer, welcome. If up in the upper left corner of the screen is the link where you could download the January version, and that'll be where this next release goes up when I finish it this month. Well, I mean July I'll finish it. And then also that's the password to get to that link. And if you go to that link, there's also an invite to the Discord if you're not already on my Discord server. Please join. It's a good bunch of people over there. And we talk about Mythruna and other related things. Yeah, okay, see, we got much better. Yeah, so my terrain files got corrupted somehow. Alright, so I should be standing on the... Yeah, so I didn't delete the world data, so we should be good there. Yep, we zoomed, and I'm... Oh, it's going to take a second. When it starts actually updating, it's going to move this stuff around. It should. We saw that last time, where at first it wasn't, and then it moved the grid. Oh, no. So... I have done... Oh, there it goes. Yep, okay. It did shift. I was right, it did. And so here we're zoomed in. I don't know if you can tell, but we are only seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We zoomed in 2 tiles on all sides, and we were seeing about 15 before, so that makes sense. Well, we should have been half a tile less than 16. And so -4 is about 12, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Yeah, something like that. We're seeing 15 -4. Anyway. So that's working, and now I need to hook it up to like the middle mouse wheel and have some kind of zoom slider somewhere. And eventually maybe overlay map key. We're getting that same... YouTube is not receiving enough data. Okay, so let's hook it up to mouse wheel first. Any of... Ron Morgan noob. Okay, so let us put this zoom somewhere that we can use it. So we'll set zoom up here. For now, 0. And I think that I want to... Well, okay, those aren't magic math or anything, so... Okay, so we got zoom. We'll put some... I'm trying to keep this component as simple as possible. And let's see, math.max, so it never goes below 1. Oh, that could be interesting too. Yeah, let's not bound it for the moment. Trying to keep this component simple. And so I'm going to, it doesn't know much about the environment. And so I'm going to put the key handling stuff over here. And what I already know is that I will want to pull in the lemur input stuff. And let's say, actually, let's make sure I don't already have one defined. Oops. Somewhere I have... What I'm doing is I'm defining the game functions, or the logic. I'm going to hook up the mouse wheel to the concept of zooming, but in order to remap keys and things, we keep them separate. So what I will map is zoom. I will map some concept like function ID zoom to the idea of making the map zoom in and out, and then I will map the particular input I want to that. Let me just make sure. So the main game functions, I think the movement stuff is separate, so we should be good. I'm using a built-in one of the open source libraries that is actually open source, not just someday open source, but this one, SiO2, silicon dioxide, is a it has a standard movement state that you can use, and so it defines some of its own movement function. I just want to make sure it doesn't have something called zoom. It does not. So this is the normal movement that we have access to, where we can X look, Y look, and that's mapped to joystick and keys and some stuff, you know, shift to run and so on. This is where those default mappings are set up. And so actually, we want to, I think there's only going to be one map function, so I'm not going to waste time. I'm not going to waste too much time making a separate class to keep the track of this stuff. I'm just going to put it right in here. And we want to say group map. I will put all this stuff under one set of map stuff. The group allows us to turn on and off a bunch of keys at the same time, or mappings at the same time. And so so this function zoom and any other map things I may add later, I can activate them and deactivate them all together. So we can zoom, or we'll call it map zoom. So if later, you know, you're going through the menu and remapping keys, you'll know this is map zoom. You know, when there's a menu to do that. And so then in initialize, we don't want to do anything. Well, let's just take a page from this guy. What does he do? Movement state. Yeah, so in initialize he adds all the listeners and stuff. So let's steal his input listener. I think we want value active. We can go value changed. I'm a code stealer, especially since I'm not using an IDE during these live streams. It's easier for me to come and steal code. But you know, I don't need to in this case. I don't even need listeners. So Lemur has an input mapper which does some nice things for us. And I'm not even in the right place, so that's nice. It does some things for us, like we can say I don't pull in GUI globals. Like if we pull up the Java doc for Lemur, wiki, getting started, API Java doc. Okay, so we want input mapper has a way you can just wire methods directly, and so you can for the actual mapping of the function keys, add delegate, that's what it's called. And so what we'll do is we will say GUI globals get instance. Did you ever rewrite? Oh yes, this is the third rewrite. So there's the original one that you guys could download from before, from 2012, and I reworked that to be plugin based, but it was basically the same code, and you know, just copied over and plugin based, and I redid some of the stuff, and then you know, after my wife's health got worse, etc. And then COVID hit. No, it was just before that. After my wife's health got worse, I was having less and less time, and so I restructured the project as like open source project. Hold on, I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. Change zoom. Okay. Oops, that's got to be in quotes. Oops. Yeah, now see, modern Java, I could actually have passed a method. Anyway, and then when we're done, we want to make sure to remove that. And then, so I have this story up on my Patreon page too, I think, but when I reapproached the project, like the thing with the second version of the engine is I integrated physics, but in the networking of physics, it was too much. Like the code base was becoming unwieldy, and even I couldn't remember how to do stuff with the plugin system, and so I kind of started over and I built it as a set of smaller, open source ready packages. So there's like the M block package, which is how block types get turned into geometry, and that works on its own, and that's what Blocked is based on, and you can do that. You can use that for all kinds of stuff, not just games. And then there's M world, which is responsible for doing the train paging in and out and keeping track of far train, near train, and using the blocks to turn that into local world train, and so on and so forth. And so I just basically built these as a bunch of separate modules. If we go, where do I have to look? Somewhere on GitHub here. It's not under SimSilica. It's I have to look for my commits projects. Nope, no projects under SimSilica. So, it doesn't know who I am. That's why. Is it gonna make me do it? No. Jump right in. Projects, repositories. What the hell is it called? I mean, the software package itself is called Moss. I just don't know why I can't get to it like quickly while I'm trying to get here. Should be under my profiles, Moss. There it is. So these are all the different someday open source packages. There's mblock, which I talk about, which is turns raw array data into geometry based on block types that you've registered. We've got mmod, which is that's the module system, the sort of plugins. mworld is what takes mblock and turns it into far train, near train, and local stuff by paging it in and out. It also has the networking support for pulling train over the network. mphys is the physics engine that uses stuff, and then there's basically si2, mblock, these are basically plugins for the physics engine that let it work with mblock to do block shapes. And we've got the character rigging stuff, networking actions. We got lots of stuff. Yes, it's crazy for a single person. You were absolutely right about that. The only thing is, I had a lot of time during COVID lockdowns and things to work on this because my kids were home from school. M accounts, the networking, account management, and stuff like that. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff. This is all all of this stuff is slated to be open sourced, and if you're a Patreon member and a developer, just let me know, because you can get early access to this and play around with it. And then Mythruna is built on top of this, and of course it's got its own custom code that's custom to Mythruna that's not going to be open sourced, and of course all the textures and stuff that are Mythruna proprietary and so on. But anyway, Lemur, back to Lemur. So we mapped whenever we see function zoom change, we're going to call a change zoom method, which I haven't added yet. Protected void change zoom. It will take a parameter, which I'm going to need. Do I add delegate? I don't actually. Pass argument is what I want to say. True. And remove delegate. I just want to make sure I got these mapped right. I got kind of off track answering good questions. Remove delegate. Nope, just needs the method name. Okay, cool. And I think it's like input state value. Log info zoom value. So let's just see if this works. I have to map it to a key, and I have to activate the group. So when we enable, so in app states, which is a JMonkey Engine thing, initializes when it first gets attached to the game, and cleanup is when it gets removed from the game. But on enable and on disable are when they're actually, made visible in this case. And so when we do that, we want to activate our group map that we created above, so that I'll make sure that change zoom is activated. And when we're disabled, we want to make sure to disable that, and or deactivate. And that makes it so when the map's popped up, this should be active, and when the map's not popped up, it shouldn't be. And so if I've wired this correctly, or I haven't set it up to the mouse wheel yet, that's the other thing I need to do. Input mapper map. We want to map function zoom to axis mouse wheel. Okay, so axis mouse wheel. Okay, so if I've got everything wired up right, then we should see this log method when I roll the, we'll see. When I roll the mouse wheel over the map, we should see the, oops. Okay. So that's problem one. Wait, no, okay, something's messed up. Oh, it's ambiguous, that's why. GUI global skin is, oh, I know I did it wrong. Get input mapper. I'm going to need that here. Oh, wrong one. There we go. And here as well. All right. Yes. Yes, I am definitely a crazy person for taking all this on. But at some point, you're kind of like in for a penny, in for a pound. Group map. Why don't you like that? Activate group. So yes. But yeah, I'm deep in sunk cost fallacy at this point. But I just want to make the game. All right. One more place I screwed up. And so, lately, the only gaming I do is like Minecraft Dungeon while I'm waiting for everybody to show up for dinner. Get in and out of there in like 5 or 10 minutes. Kill some skeletons and stuff. I find that game interesting. It's kind of, it's kind of like Minecraft Diablo, right? Old school Diablo. And it solidifies some of my ideas for the ways I want to do things differently in Mythruna, and so it's kind of fun. Like mob scaling and things. So many games do that, right? You get more powerful, and then wherever you go, uh-oh. Okay, so it's going to tell me why it didn't like that. Earlier, much earlier. Mob scaling is one of those things, right? So it didn't like, I think it wants the function ID as well. Or a function ID. What is the, I have several of, no, it can't want all that. I'm trying to think where I have an example of using this. I think actually, can find it real quick. But you guys probably know what I'm talking about as far as mob scaling. Most RPGs do this, right? What am I looking for? Add delegate. You get twice as powerful, and then as you wander around, the monsters are twice as powerful. And it's like, it's okay. So that's interesting. So do I feel more powerful? No, it took me 2 hits to kill that guy before, and now it still takes me 2 hits to do that, even though I'm doing 100 points of damage, and I was doing 10 points of damage before. And so I think a lot about how do you scale encounters in such a way that allows you to still feel powerful. And recognizing that Mythruna is not going to be an XP-based game, because I feel like XP leads to grinding, and I could probably go off for a really long time on that subject. And so, yeah. Well, I mean, in some terms, right? Select block type is the one I want to look at. Probably. What was I saying? I got off on slightly other subject. Oh yeah, no XP. So you'll build your character up by making your character better, picking up skills, picking up new items, modifying your existing items, crafting custom items out of rare materials that you find, and so on and so forth. So the only kind of grinding will be sort of exploring and finding the things you need to build the things you want to, or find the place that sells them and earn the money. So anyway, so then how do you scale encounters when it's kind of impossible to tell what the power of a player is, right? You've created your own custom sword, and maybe for some reason, you edited the blocks and you put it in a certain way, and it's got like a certain spike on the end that's made of a certain thing, and I don't know that your sword is more powerful than anything else that the game has ever encountered. So it becomes really difficult to scale encounters. And so I had some ideas on that, and playing other games that are very grindy and that sort of have perfect scaling in the sense that you never really feel any more powerful if you stop to think about it. So what I want to say is, what did I want to look for? I'm trying to find an add delegate that, yeah, here's one. Change primary. So activation input state's not even far away. So if we go over to here. So I spent a lot of time, I have like specific ideas I want to play with, and monster generators is the big one, right? Most mobs should have some reason for being there. Their den or whatever spawned them. And so we are looking for add delegate. I'm getting off topic here. So set primary. What is the magic that I missed in my input state? Maybe it needed to be public. Yeah, so perhaps that's the thing, public. And it doesn't need the function ID. We've already established that. Okay, so let's try again. And I don't want to go too much into spoiling how the game's going to work, but I have specific ideas and I've written a bit on it. And I came up with like another crucial piece the other night after thinking about mob scaling. If you want to think of it like an anthill, right? If you run up to an ant and you kill an ant, you had the difficulty of killing an ant, and if you are no better, if you're only barely strong enough to kill an ant, you're fine. But if you start to go messing with the anthill, you're going to have a lot more ants to deal with, right? So if you go messing with the spawn or the generator for that ant, Maybe you only had to deal with that one ant and you could have gone about your day. But now you decided, I'm going to take this anthill out. Now you've got a whole mess of problems to deal with. And maybe you're powerful enough to deal with that and you're fine. Okay, so let's bring the map open. I should be able to... Yep, okay. Positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay, we're good. Yeah, see, because we're right on the edge, we get to see the edge of the texture. There's math involved on how it decides to draw green and brown and so on and so forth, and right at the edge of the map kind of messes up. Okay, so now we can hook up that to our zoom, and so when the value is positive, actually it also has an actual value. Input state antenna hive dungeon now, or ant hive. Yes, well, yes and no. So the other thing I have to deal with in a logical way, and I think I've talked about this before. Oh, you know what? This is just as number. That should be fine. Okay, so so map container, is that the one? Or map components? So in an open world game, you have to deal with, I've talked about this before, I'm quite sure. In an open world game, you have to deal with cleanup. Like if players decide to go kill 20 goblins and just leave them laying around with all their crap, you either do the lame thing, which is you have them despawn after some time. So if a goblin's laying there, after 30 seconds, he just kind of invisibles. He he goes away, disappears. Hold on, I'm trying to think at the same time as I'm x equals value times as number times 0.1f. Okay, so we should be able to map component. So even in the original version of Mythruna, I had this idea of cleanup mobs. So if you leave stuff laying around, that will attract mobs that are there to sort of, they're like really like nature has, right? If you leave, dead bodies and other organic material laying around, then ants will come, giant ants, of course, and they'll come take that stuff away. And perhaps you could follow them back to their hive if you really have a death wish or are super powerful. And then there's the other creature that my older child came up with when he was like 7 or 8 years old, called a viscerac, which is what goes around and cleans up all of the metal stuff, which I don't want to get too much into. I don't want to spoil too many of the creatures that are going to eventually be there. But that's the two kind of cleanup mobs. I was trying to think if there's any more. Okay, so here we are. I should be able to... I may have the in and out, but you guys won't know. Whoops. Oh, you know what? I'm not recalculating those texture coordinates. Adoy. So, like, that math I showed you guys before, that's only when we set the texture for the first time or something. So we want to say... refresh, zoom, and then here, where I had that set zoom, if this dot zoom equals zoom, return. We don't bother to do it, and then we refresh, zoom. And down here, oh, I don't keep the quad around either. All right, so. We're going to have to keep that around. And so then we can come in here, steal this, and I totally forgot what my train of thought was. If you guys remember and want to hear more about it, then let me know. But Alright, so that should do it. Alright, let's try again. 7 people watching, see if I get it right in the next 10 minutes. I really should have gotten farther than we did, but you know, I feel like it's important in the live streams to answer your guys' questions. It's part of the reason that we do these, right? You get to be live and interact with the creator of the game. You can't be watching just for the subtle tones of my voice, I guess, right? Okay, come on. Let's see the map. Mapping. Okay, and then it'll scooch over here, I think. Shoop, when it finishes. That's something I have to fix. Yeah, okay. So now I should be able to zoom in and really quickly and zoom out to ridiculous levels. Well, it's working. So this is as far as you'll ever be able to zoom out. But then to be able to zoom in. See, actually we get a little more detail than I thought we did. So yeah, considering I'm not sitting right on the grid, either that or there's just a slight miscalculation in my offsets, which I'll have to look into as well. But so apparently there are some caves over here carving some stuff into the ground. And let me turn on the lights. Okay, and we'll go over there and we'll see if that's really where that is. Okay. Do my super fast travel. Hopefully we don't hit that same bug we hit before. Oh yeah, we've got to regenerate all the tile data. That's the other thing I forgot. Because I had to clean out my tile database from that earlier bug. So anyway, we should be zoom. Wee. Big bounce. Okay, how close are we? We are going in the wrong direction. Oh. Okay, now we're going in the right direction. So one of the things I need to improve is the map icons. And any particular art direction for stuff and characters besides races. Also, have you generated any AI images of your concepts yet? No, I haven't done much with AI images. Well, I did. I tried and I didn't get... like, I want to have a flying fox, like a fox with wings. And so here we are. We did have some caves here. And the water, the ones that go deep enough to have water are over here. Yep, there they are. Neat. So we should be right on the edge of that. Yep, sure enough. Okay, that's pretty cool, actually. So, you know, I did, on the Discord I talked about, I did a couple with that fox with wings, because I want to have foxes that have wings. And there's various other kinds of, you know, I take... Avatar: The Last Airbender, I take some inspiration from there where they would just slam 2 animals together and have a new creature, you know, so there's going to be some of that going on. But no, I just, no, I have like a vision in my head on the way I want things to look, and so it's kind of hard to describe, and so I find the AI stuff to be a little, well, for one thing, I need to create 3D versions, and I need to create 3D versions that I can recreate, decompose into shapes, and you know, I have several ideas for creatures, and I've tried to get the AI to make a couple of the different AI engines to make something that looked like what I see in my head, and it just was not successful. And so I think I'm just going to use traditional art methods to create my concepts and get them into 3D. The way I tend to think about repeating a drawing, but like if you wanted to draw like a rhinoceros and you want to draw it from several different angles, you try to decompose that rhinoceros into, you know, different shapes, you know, like around the chest, you know, he's got some kind of spherical shape, and you decompose it into simpler shapes so that you can draw him from different angles. And that tends to, even in 2D drawing, that tends to translate well into 3D modeling. I think. I mean, ultimately, you guys will be the judge. Maybe all my models will suck, and you guys will say you should hire a professional, and that's probably true in the end. But in the meantime, I will be, and maybe we'll have a couple of these live streams where, like I did with the pen ducks, or the, what do we end up calling, the Gafen, where I make some other things like the flying whales and things like that. Anyway, any other questions on that subject line or other subject lines? We can go and see how far this cave goes. I don't think it goes very far. So we'll explore this cave for a second because I've never been here. Again, this is the Jenny world, and look, we got the nice. We got a little bit of zoom. I have to tweak it a lot. Oh yeah, it flipped upside down. We went too far and we flipped upside down. I have to tweak it a lot, but that's going to be really useful. I got to use the right keys. Yeah, so see, there's no underwater yet. So we're underwater, but you can't see it. Yeah, so so I got to make that zoom, properly bounded and like not zoom so quickly, and bring in the high-res terrain. The real map component won't work this way at all because mapping is a skill you'll have to earn or buy your maps and stuff. Or it could be a skill you start with, but it'll be one you have to select, kind of thing. So right now we are underwater in this cave. You can't tell because there's no water physics and because it doesn't look like water, but it's kind of fun to go down and explore these caves. Ooh, oh, that's a grid line. I was like, well, I don't remember adding any things to caves. But the physics grid is still enabled. And we are deep down. We are 62 meters above bedrock. So we're near the bottom of the world. But yeah, so creatures coming soon. I want to add a dog. Because, my dog, Kaylee, yellow lab. So I'm going to add a dog based on a yellow lab, but do something with the texture so that it can be... we'll have floating islands. I mean, not on purpose, right? The terrain may accidentally generate something that's like but it won't float away. There's just too much physics involved in that. But you will have flying ships, and they can be pretty decent sized. So maybe if you make a flying ship that looks like a small island, used enough of the anti-grav blocks to make that work. Because that's how flying ships will work. You'll have some access to dirigibles, inflatable, but also anti-grav blocks that you can put on to lighten the load. So anyway, yeah. But yeah, the anti-grav blocks are going to be how you can get big, giant, sailing ship, 40-meter long sailing ship style. Yeah, there's a lighting bug here. To float in the sky without much in the way of buoyancy. Anyway, so we're exploring caves. Any other questions as I look to wrap this up here in a minute? Okay, we've got some more caves to explore down here. I'm trying to get this release out, and the other thing I was going to work on was the little dungeon game, but I've been like exploring. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to release. Yeah, I think I'm going to release. I think I'm going to release probably the caves as they are. I don't think I'm going to make any tweaks to them. It would be one thing if I knew the world generation was finalized, but since I don't have rivers and roads and towns and stuff, I know I got to change stuff. So I'd hoped this would be the last release that messed with the world format, but it definitely won't be. And you guys have waited for a release for more than 6 months now, so I'm going to try to wrap up what I've been working on. Another lighting bug, and you guys can at least explore the caves the way they are now. And one of the things that these map changes allow me to do, which is the other thing I wanted, is to be able to see other players on the map. So if you're logged into the server, you can see where other players are and go say hi, which is one thing this one's been missing over the old Mythruna. anyway. Yeah, this cave's kind of fun. Oh, other thing I changed in preparation for doing the scripting. I changed the little dungeon generator. I gave it its own little special wand, which is supposed to look like something you could plant in the ground and would go generate a dungeon. Because eventually this will be the object you have to retrieve at the end of the dungeon to be able to generate another one. So I did that. Yeah, that was part of moving all this to scripting, was being able to set custom a new icon for that guy. Anyway, any other questions? I gotta figure out my way out of this place again. Somewhere up here, I think. Nice thing is, if you get lost, you can always just dig your way out right now, which I may have to do here. Let's go ahead and... Oh yeah, we're in the water. I forgot. Alright, let's do it. Come on, we are really deep. You guys, like, see nothing. Okay, well, you know, the other thing is, while we're floating here, I can, like, flip to third person. We can see what that cave system looked like from the outside. Oh yeah, there was a lot I hadn't explored. Check that out. We only, like, tip of the iceberg. So this is the way caves should be, right? A couple breaches of the surface, but most of them underground. And so that's what we'll work towards with some of those chaotic caves. Yeah, so here's where the surface of the water ended. So that's interesting. So we'll come up here. The water should have been all the way up to here, actually. Okay, so if we come over here and we just start, yeah, so it would have been easier to go up. Alright, so let's just keep going up. So any other questions while I got you, while everyone's here? Yep, there we go, we are out. Yay! And there's the chasm. So anyway, so I'll try to get this release out in the next month. I've got some things I want to finish up. You know, map markers on the map. There's a couple of bugs I want to fix. I want to add a debug panel, you know, like a control panel debug thing for how the you know, the dragging works. I want to give you guys a bunch of different parameters to try out different things. You know, like the fact that when you're in first-person mode, does the camera move with it, or does the camera stay still? You know, does it auto zoom like, or zoom out like this, and all those? Be able to set those settings. Does it only move up and down, and then the side to side? All these different things I'll make as a kind of dialogue with toggles, so that you guys can explore that, and I can decide if I just want to abandon this feature and go with more traditional clicks and stances and things. I have like a plan for more traditional, you know, D&D combat type stuff. You know, while making it interesting and still having custom weapons and stuff. But that's like it. If we want to check the spreadsheet, yeah, I'm actually off the spreadsheet again because I've been working on stuff that's not even on the list. I think I'm going to push this, but yeah. So see, we see that for spring 2023, I'm almost 25% done. But again, I haven't removed all the river stuff. Oh, maybe I did. Yeah, I moved all the river stuff out. So there's some stuff to get done. You know, this kind of list, I'm gonna go through and triage again and remove some of this stuff. But this is the list I'm working down right here. All right. I can hear the screeching owl. It's because even though it looks like daytime, on the server, it's nighttime. Like this control here only controls the client side, I think. I actually don't remember. Anyway. All right. Any other questions before I sign off? I have some things I need to do before I go pick somebody up, so I don't want to run too long tonight. And otherwise, thank you all for joining. It's been a good discussion. We got basic zooming in. I'll clean that up and get that working tonight. You know, so thanks for watching. And you know, like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. You know, if you know somebody else who might be interested in, even not just watching these live, but catching the recordings later or just paying attention to the game. Let them know about the game. Um, it's we're in a kind of a dry spell on ways that are easy to grow an audience organically because Twitter's kind of imploding. Used to be I could pick up new users by the bots and stuff retweeting my things, but now I just can't anymore. It's kind of dying over there. I used to get like 8 or 9 likes on everything I posted, and now I'm lucky if I get 1 like. So I got to find a new outlet. But in the meantime, tell your friends, and I guess we'll see you guys next week, probably same time next week. Thanks again.